And I forgot to unmute myself. So, well, hello, hello, hello. It's like I never left. Uh, just less than 10 minutes ago, I was talking about style. Doesn't have a body shape or type. Anybody. It's just about confidence. It's about loving yourself and self-care. And when we talk about loving yourself and loving each other, it's about loving the community overall. And it's about living in harmony. And right now, what the world is going through is pretty much quite opposite of that. In different parts of the world, things are happening that are ugly, I would say. It doesn't help that we have a pandemic going on, which is making lives really, really difficult. It's a situation most of our generations, I don't think right now anybody who's alive has dealt with it. I know there was a pandemic around 117 years ago. I may be wrong, so please don't quote me on that. I am not good with numbers or time zones and names, but I'm good with one thing, just talking a lot, and mostly with grammar mistakes. So speaking of, recently, well, around March, the pandemic situation got really serious. And we've already been dealing with such unique challenges, a situation that none of us have faced, none of us was prepared for, none of us is trained for, and we didn't get a chance to have a drill. There was no drill. Literally walking into the situation, dealing with the unknown, unprecedented, and doesn't help that politicians and everybody else, they just don't have a strategy except just making it worse. And on top of that, just I think less than a week ago, once again, something happens that shocks and rocks entire America. And then while America is, I wouldn't say dealing with it, struggling with it really, and in the shock and in frustration, it happens in Australia just 2 days ago, I think 3 days ago. I'm talking about people of color being attacked, being killed, their rights being taken away by nobody other than those who are supposed to protect us, who are supposed to serve us, who are supposed to ensure that we live in a safe community, we live in a safe society, and uphold the law. And that's, not for me to say. That's what today our guests are going to talk about. So if you're tuning in right now, and if you haven't seen the previous episode just 15 minutes ago, I'm Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, and you're watching Almost Naked Conversation on Dreamaniac TV, a presentation of Szebastian.com and AliciaCurry.inc. So why did I say .inc? Alicia Curry Inc. AK. So these are my guests tonight or today, depending on where you are. If you're in Australia, it's morning, so good morning. And if you're in America, it's evening. If you're somewhere else, I'm sure it's time for a drink. So we will be talking to Vismaya Rubin. She is the gratitude gangster, and I will let everybody introduce themselves. Marianne Parker, she is Her Royal Highness and an etiquette expert, and she is a beautiful person. All these three ladies are just amazing, incredible. And Alicia Curry, do you not know her? How can you not know her? She is my business partner, my close friend, and my partner in crime at Dreamaniac TV, executive producer of Dreamaniac TV, the red carpet CEO, and so much more. I just will let everybody else introduce, themselves. Okay, so I have said enough. Let me bring the ladies back up and let me see where are they. So I'll bring them up. Until then, just have a quick look at this reel. Well, hello, ladies. Welcome.
All right. Hi.
Hi there.
Hello,
Well,
everyone.
So first of all, what I'll do is let's just do a little quick intro with everybody and let the audience know who's who. So let's start with, I did it right. Okay, let's start with Vismaya on my some kind of left, some kind of right. So Vismaya, Who
Hi,
are
everyone.
you, Maya?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here today. So I am Vismaya Rubin, founder of Living in Gratitude Today, teacher, speaker, best-selling author, but my favorite role is that of a gratitude gangsta. What? So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me for such an important conversation.
Thank you, Vismaya. And let's go to Marianne.
My name is Marianne Parker, and I'm an etiquette consultant. I teach business and etiquette, and I'm also a best-selling author, speaker, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this very important conversation today because it's an issue and a virus which is a world spread. It's not only in America, it's the world, and we need to look for solutions, and I'm very happy to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And none other than the red carpet CEO.
Hi. Hey, everyone. Alicia Curry here. And I am, as Sebastian says, the co-founder with him of Dreamaniac TV and the executive producer here, if I can speak today. And I am the founder and president of Alicia Curry Inc. Sorry, I'm like completely
That's
blanking
okay.
out right now. So yeah, so I'm excited to be here to address what we've been seeing going on, and just continue the conversation. So thank you.
And I want to actually start with that segue because just recently you had a conversation with Dr. Kieran Brown, and you were talking about being a black man in America, of today or in general as well. And right now are very, very interesting times. Speaking of which, the first question I have, from all of you, and anybody can really start. Um, Actually, Vismaya, let me actually begin with you. You're not a person of color, and you have a different perspective. How do you see what's happening right now I'm talking about what happened with George Floyd? I'm talking about the protests that are going on. How do you see that?
So the first thing, I'm sick to my stomach. I'm not a huge TV watcher, and I have been glued to the TV screen watching every detail because I'm disgusted by what's happening. And I feel like there's part of me that wakes up and feels like I have to defend myself in a sense. Like, we're not all that way. We're not, not all white people. And I know that that's a very kind of a ridiculous statement, but at the same time, it's almost like I feel like I have to shout out, we're not all like that. And I want to be part of this conversation because I also, as a white person, as a white woman waking up every single day, I don't have that experience of being judged by the color of my skin. I don't have that. I don't know what that's like. So I want to be part of the conversation so that I can be educated, and and look at my own biases. And that's really what I've been doing these past few days is really being conscious and clear as to when I am, maybe going down a path that's not that appropriate, or feeling a little prejudiced against a person, or judging somebody, and really calling myself out on that. Because if I'm going to be part of a solution, I need to first look at myself.
And Alicia, how do you feel about what's going on right now?
Well, I wanted to address something Vismaya had said, and that was really you're saying like you want to shout it out, like we're not all like that, but almost like you have to, because it seems to me, and I've had other people, friends of mine who are Caucasian, say that they are being almost bullied into saying something. Like if they're not speaking out, if they're not saying something, or out there on the streets protesting, they're being vilified now. And one of my friends is actually in a high risk category, and so is very concerned about going out and being among everybody else. But she said that someone told her that she's no longer friends with her because she's not vocal enough. So I think that is an unfortunate turn of events, that if you're not, as a white person, uber vocal, suddenly you're the enemy, which I think it's unfair. I really do.
Thank you.
Right.
You know, it's also interesting as a business owner, like how much do I say and how much do I speak my truth, because I'm horrified by what's happening. And I
Right.
really had to make that distinction. Like, I'm going to speak what I need to say, and those who want to stay with me will stay with me, and those who don't. And thank you for saying that, because I also know a lot of people who are not able to protest and go out there for the same reasons, and they're
Right.
silent because they're
They
so
don't
much
want to say
more
the wrong thing. They don't
right.
want to say something and then people
And
pounce
I
on
will
them.
jump into that in a second as well. I just want to also ask
Crazy.
Marianne. So, Marianne, you bring in a little bit, and actually, Alicia also is, originally not from America, but Marianne, you bring in that factor. If and I'm just gonna, I know it may sound a little dumb, but I will say, if you don't speak, people don't know that you're a migrant, and but you bring that angle in. You are a migrant. You are light skinned. How do you see that? How do you find the entire situation? And does that make any difference?
Okay, in my case, it's a little bit different because I am experience the racism on a daily basis because my children, my daughter, she's Muslim, so I always have to think about the undertone when people see her when we travel, because this is a very big issue. It's not just for the United States. We're talking about it right now because he has a very long history of people dealing with that. And I really love the fact that the gratitude gangster, she says, I don't know what that means, so I wanted to educate myself. I'm coming from a country where we don't have black people. I grew up, and when I saw the first black person, I was very amused, but not in a negative way. For me, it was different. We didn't have a different race besides ours.
Right.
So I experienced so how racist people were there towards them, and didn't sit well with me. Like I felt that as a human being, I didn't really know why they're not liked. And when I started traveling, I've everywhere, and people were always saying, you know what, they talk about it here, we don't. Or in Australia, I read that they don't talk about slavery. They consider it something else, just is under the is almost as behind the curtain. They don't have a slavery, but they send also the Aborigine people or people of color. They send them to a different area, like us in the United States. So I am vocal in terms because I think that is a very severe injustice, and unfortunately, people take it on a level of politics. Republican person, I don't think that, and I'm very frank, I'm very transparent, but I don't think that has any political, because I took my kids for a day
Right.
because I want them to be part of a movement. I don't think that the racial discrimination is starting. I mean, the race war is starting. I think that this is the reason is we want to end it. So
Right.
this is just my outcome.
Right. Okay, so I want to quickly take in some comments. Thank you, ladies, for that. I want to take some comments, and I know Andrew is controversial. He says, I love taboo subjects as I'm highly controversial. And Javier says, what a lineup. Absolutely, Javier. And Andrew says, I'm also a speaker and modern day motivational speaker that keeps it real. And Alicia, sorry I took a while. I know you've commented the same thing. There you go. Alicia says police brutality, especially against POC, people of color, has been an issue in Baltimore for years. Baltimore is where Freddie Gray was murdered. And there's so many names we can take. But from what everything you guys just shared, there's one thing I do want to say. I am a person of color as well, and I'm not in that situation right now, but I've seen from my perspective, in Australia as well. I will not say I have seen or experienced a lot of racism, but I have seen the undertones. I've gone through experiences where I just question: is it just because I'm a person of color? Is it just because I'm not white? Is it why I have to answer such thing, or I have to be careful what I say? And I found myself being watchful of choosing my words, choosing my reactions, trying to stay calm under certain circumstances. Um, and also another perspective that I have is I've also seen people where people using race card of my own race or other colors to take advantage of what they know can be used to intimidate people of lighter skin, I would say. I don't even want to say white and black because I just think we just have different shades, but we're all human beings. And I've seen both sides of it. I've fought for white people and said, well, just because you're Indian or just because you're, Asian or something, you don't get to just use your card for no reason whatsoever and say, oh, I'm Asian, that's why you're saying this, right? So a question that I have for you guys is, and Alicia, I want to actually ask you, you brought in that case where, white people are being told that, and, you also have a little bit of different perspective on things anyway. People expect black people to have a certain political ideology, have a certain specific reaction to a situation, and you don't always have that, right? And then they get surprised, or they argue, or they
Or
debate.
offended. They get offended. I'll use the word. They get offended.
How can you say that as a black person, right? So I want to ask you, when you feel such situations and you are expected to be fitting in a black box, if I may, uh, how do you deal with that, and what do you have to say to that?
Well, first, honestly, I feel more discriminated as a woman than as a black woman. I feel as a woman, I feel this discrimination a little bit more, and the my blackness was more from childhood. Like I that feeling of, like you were talking about, that people didn't like me because of my color, or people were asking me questions and all this kind of stuff because of the color of my skin, was more because I grew up in Australia, was more prevalent as a child than as an adult. So yes, and I do get a lot. I don't fit into any mold because I refuse to be put into a mold. I am a free thinker. I am a Christian woman, and my ideology comes from biblical principles. So if I'm supposed to follow a certain political stereotype because I'm black, if it goes against my beliefs, I'm not going to follow it. If I am supposed to, like, I wrote something and I hashtagged all lives matter, and my kids came after me. My kids came at me because I did that. But then also people on social media came at me because I saw what was happening is the pendulum was going to swing too far in the other direction. So I wanted to remind people that all police are not evil. All police officers are not the enemy. And there are some bad people in every industry that we're in. So just to be cautious of taking our message, or taking this message of Black Lives Matter so far that we swing it so far to the other side that now other people are afraid. And other people are becoming scared of going outside, which is what I was talking about with Vismaya, because they're not for you, they're against you, kind of a thing. So someone told me that if I don't recognize why that's offensive, then I'm not really, she doesn't want to explain to me why that's so offensive, and shame on me for being a Black woman and having Black children, not understanding that. So I said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I have my own opinion, and I live my own experience. And it is horrific if anyone is killed on the basis of the color of their skin. If anyone is killed out of prejudice, that is heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. But we also have to step up as a community and look at love. And I'm so grateful to see now that some of the violence is being tempered a little bit. Some of the anger is being tempered, that people are reaching out more with love and respect and understanding, instead of continuing this anger, because anger solves nothing.
Anger absolutely solves nothing at all. Vismaya, I want to ask you, now you're not, you are light skinned. You are not a black person. You,
I'm
as you said,
white. Say it. It's okay.
that's the thing. I don't see people as black or white. See people as shades of life, right? So for me, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're white. What I care is that you're a human being. So I want to understand, you are coming from a place where you don't understand the experience, how black people are experiencing it right now. People who are angry, people who are frustrated, people who are reacting to this. Right now, my focus is not even whether they are reacting in, with violence or whether they are doing peaceful protest. Why does it affect you so much, given that this is not your problem? I just want to understand, why does it affect you?
I'm from South Florida. I live in a very diverse community. I was a teacher for 20 years in an inner city school. These are my babies, and that's why it affects me. These were my kids.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are the ones that have been, people look at them and they think they're a certain way because they come from a certain area, and it breaks my heart. And I want to clarify, I'm not afraid to go out. I'm not afraid to speak my truth. I'm not afraid to be a white woman right now, even with what's going on. And I understand that the conversation of why people say Black Lives Matter. And, I used to say, well, all lives matter also. And I understand Alicia as well. But I heard somebody say it was a newscaster, and she says, when I say to you, I stand for X, that doesn't mean I don't stand for Y and Z. It means that my cause, where my focus is X. And I think that by saying, Black Lives Matter, I don't think that is taking away from White Lives Matter and police officers matter and this person matters. I think that we're becoming very sensitive right now. And I think it's a time where people are extremely sensitive, and we have to be conscious of the words we use. But then I feel like it's getting to the point where we're oversensitive. And it matters to me because that was my community. I mean, I taught a nonviolence class based on Martin Luther King's philosophies. And I had 20 kids thrown in my classroom, like 27. None of them looked like me. The majority were Black. I think I had a couple Hispanics. And they walked in and they were picked for this class because they were the toughest and the baddest in the school. And they basically looked at me and they're like, what are you, as a white woman, a white Jewish woman from Kendall, which is, kind of the suburbs, going to teach me about being nonviolent? What do you know about my life?
Right.
And we had a magical time together, and we really learned a lot, and we shifted a lot of perspective. And this has always been something that's passionate to me. This has always been important to me because I live in a multi-diverse or diverse community, and
Well, should I say you just love everybody, no matter what? Right.
But and I want to be clear, I also do have my own prejudices, and that's what I'm looking at now, to be very transparent. Because to say that I'm always kumbaya is unrealistic.
Right. Marianne, tell me, again, you bring in a different perspective, but when we were talking about this, you felt very upset, you felt angry, you were, I sense frustration, and this is affecting you in a very different, not just different way, it's just affecting you a lot, what's going on. Please tell me, what is making you so angry and frustrated about what's going on right now?
Well, you see, in my situation, I have to, I'm thinking always that this could be my kid. So me as a white person, Caucasian person, even if I'm an immigrant from another country, I've seen it, how I said, all over the world. People do not talk about it, or they just communicate about it in a hush-hush way. And I never been that way. I've been always very brave, very outspoken, I stand my ground, and I know that I can handle it. But I had situations when I've seen how my kids are treated before and after the teachers meet me. My son was attending a private school, And I think that he was the only mixed child in the whole class. So I know how they treated him there. And I had to make a point to go to the school, talk to the teachers, and it's just very frustrating. I have to consistently deal with that. I just have to show them, what, my kids are not that way. Or even if they know or they have friends, they're not a threat, or he might look like a bully, but he's not a bully. So it was very frustrating. Or when my daughter comes home, she's in the show business, she's a singer, and she tells me, you know what, I want to apply for this particular role, but I might not get it because I'm Black. So it's just very difficult, and I have to deal with things that I've never thought that I might deal. Or she might say, you know what, I might like somebody, but this somebody won't like me because I'm that way. And in my case, all my life, I knew the only reason why somebody is not gonna like me is because I'm fat or I'm short or something like that. I can change it, but you can't change the color of your skin. So I had to learn about situations like that, because it is very different. It's not me, it's about them, So it's just a different perspective. So yes.
Speaking of which, and I again bring a different experience from my life, and what I find is, being a person of color, I've experienced, again, as I said, I have not seen a lot of racism in my life. I've seen a couple of incidents, they did affect me. But what I found was, in Australia at least, when I faced one racist comment, there were 50 people standing next to me, white people, great people, Italian, everybody of all races and colors within my office, standing up for me and actually saying, you can't speak to him like that. You can't do this. This is not how it works in Australia. The person who was racist towards me was an Australian. The people who were defending me were Australians. And all other, again, when I say Australian, to me, Australian doesn't mean a white person. For me, Australian means a person who's grown up in Australia, who has a citizenship, white, Greek, we call them WOGs, white, Greek, Italian, Spanish, Asian, Indian, Sri Lankan, so many. My own department, which I worked in for 6 years, was so mixed. We didn't even know, so many times we're always trying each other's dishes. We're trying each other's, we're curious about each other. We've never, I don't remember anybody getting offended by anything we didn't understand. We just wanted to know, oh, how do you do this in Sri Lanka? How do you do this in, and we would even joke about, Australians as well. Does Australia has a national meal? Because we don't. We don't have a national meal, right? Every culture almost has a national food, national this, national that. So from that perspective, I understand what's going on, but I also still see, I go back to that point of all lives matter and Black lives matter, is I also sort of see, like, yes, all lives do matter. All lives do have value. But it's like speaking for women as well. It's like speaking for abused, children, or for, we can't ignore that one section is being bullied, oppressed, suppressed more than the other. Right. And for a second, I'm going to, not look at, somebody being silly enough to say, oh, you're white, why are you not speaking out for me? That's like me saying, oh, you're not LGBT, so why are you not speaking for me? You know what? I have to fight on my own. If somebody comes with me and they stand up for me, I appreciate that so much. But if they don't, I don't have a reason. Maybe I'm just not with the right people. Maybe that person actually doesn't have much to say because they don't understand my problem. I don't know. So for me to actually bully them into supporting me, that's not support. That's right. That's exactly what I'm trying to stop. Don't bully me into being something I'm not. So why can I bully you into being something you're not? And as Alicia said, she's a free thinker. She doesn't believe in this or that. So nobody gets to decide, because you're of a certain color, now you have to react this way, or you have to support people a certain way. Speaking of which, Vismaya, I want to ask you a question. You earlier said, and we were talking about this in the chat as well, since becoming an entrepreneur, now you have to be extra careful, right? And I understand that I'm an entrepreneur myself. We all are. And, we have to be extra careful. But do we really? And my I think the first question I have is, do we really have to be? And second thing is, as an entrepreneur, this is something I ask different brands as well. Why do I have to be careful what I say in my business, or why do certain brands get to stop me to have my social or my community view because I'm a business? Am I not supposed to have the human expression anymore just because I'm a business? So, Vismaya, what's your struggle as an entrepreneur, since from being a teacher to entrepreneur, in expressing yourself when it comes to things like this?
I have reeled myself back in. My tongue is like blah sometimes, and I want to say things, and I've realized, especially since George Floyd's death, I've realized that I've been almost like silent in some ways, and not just through this experience, but through a lot of experiences recently, because if somebody doesn't like my point of view, what if they don't want to do business with me? And I'm talking about gratitude, and gratitude has no, background, or it doesn't go with one group of people. It's universal. And then, the other part of me is like, I am silencing a part of me that is the best part of me if I'm not speaking my truth. And that is what I have realized these past few days, is that I cannot sit back and stay quiet. And I've said certain things, I've shared that I am campaigning for political parties that I support. And I'm doing things like that because if I want to see change, I have to do something. And I'm making phone calls for a particular candidate. And I'm sure I have people who are not in agreement with me. I know I do.
Right.
And I have to finally just be okay with that. If you don't want to buy one of my shirts, or you don't want to participate in one of my programs, and I have to be okay with that, because I feel like a part of me is dying by not speaking.
Right. And Alicia, I want to ask you on that line, you are an entrepreneur, you're an actor, you are also, you're a consultant. We run this media company together. There's so many other things you do. You have the creative side, you have the business side, and yes, you happen to be a Black woman as well. And there are certain expectations, as we talked about, and you don't fit into that mold of expectations. So again, you made a point that for me, it's more about the discrimination against women. Do you see there's a difference between women of color and women in general facing more or less discrimination compared to each other? Do you see that's there?
Absolutely. And there are two things that when Vismaya was talking earlier that I wanted to address too. And then I'll continue answering your question. But there is definitely 100% and documented disproportionate treatment of Blacks, African Americans, however you want to categorize us, within society. There's definitely a disproportionate, and it's not just with police, it's everywhere. There is that idea that we're not smarter than others, we're not good with our money, we're not good with our health, that we're overweight, we eat too much fatty foods. There are stereotypes about Black people across the board. There's violence against Black people. There is a lot of a discrimination for the Black community, and that cannot be denied. And yes, Black lives do matter. And I do appreciate you saying that there is a focus right now on that. And I think that is the fact that it, like the pandemic, that it is a global cause. Like the whole world took up this cause at the same time. And I believe that is what is going to start. We're going to start seeing change, because it's just not one neighborhood or one state or one town that has taken up this cry. It is a global cry, because they're tired of seeing this happening over and over and over again. So with that said, again, I can still have my own opinion about how I see other people being treated because of this. And I feel like, why should I also be attacked if I have an opinion about loving everybody? Let's really keep this in perspective. While we're fighting for this, let's keep in perspective to love one another, love everybody. And so back now to your question, Sebastian, about Black women in business. There is definitely, again, and it is documented. It is documented how women are funded and how Black women are funded. Even the wage gap. It's documented that while a woman will make 70 cents on the dollar from you know a man makes a dollar, a woman will make 70 cents on a dollar, a Black woman will make 50 cents, Hispanic, other, and it just keeps going, ticking down, ticking down, ticking down. So there is, again, that gender gap. And then within the gender gap, there is the racial gender gap. So, so we do see that in business, and it's up to us individually to stand up and say, hey, 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 I'm just as smart as you, Mr. over there, or I'm just as smart as a white woman who's doing the same job. So why can't I get paid proportionately? So let's address each of these issues. First of all, we're dealing with the violence against Blacks, that disproportionate violence, but let's not stop there. Let's start looking in every area that this is happening and start really making change in the systemic system, in this what do you call the subconscious bias that we're living in.
And I think that is the thing. Just because I belong to a certain color, or certain category, or certain gender, or something, doesn't mean that I only have to speak for discrimination against my class or category. We just have to stop all discrimination. Isn't that what discrimination is? Less than the other, right? Equality is about for all, not for just one person. So you correctly said that. And again, what I admire is that you still are supposed to be, and you're allowed to be yourself, whether you agree with me or not. That's exactly what equality is. You have your opinion and I have mine. We may not see eye to eye, but that doesn't mean I have to attack you for that, right?
Correct.
I just want to take some quick comments. So Javier said Alicia calls it like it is. Absolutely, she does. And Alicia says, I refuse to not to be my authentic self. That's it. You just have to be you, no matter what it is. And we're going to just take a really quick break, and we'll be right back. And so, guys, you're watching Almost Naked Conversation with me, Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, and these beautiful women, Vismaya Rubin, Marianne Parker, and Alicia Curry. And we'll be right back with you. Welcome back to Almost Naked Conversation with these beautiful ladies, Vismaya Rubin, Marianne Parker, and Alicia Curry. And we're talking about change begins with me. So, Marianne, with everything that is going on, with your life experience you've changed countries, and you faced your own struggles. And despite being a light-skinned woman, you have your own challenges as a migrant, and your kids are biracial. So what kind of challenges do you still face, or do you still feel like you still have to prepare your kids being biracial to deal with different kind of discriminations even today? And how difficult is it?
Oh, in terms of this discrimination was always there, was always relevant, and I am not saying that is a consistent struggle. Always can see the tone. So I think that this is what we are trying to eliminate in the future. I had a friend, I spoke to several people from, how I said before, I have friends all over the world. So someone was telling me, you know what, it'll never end, but we just have to teach our kids to be better people and to just try to show kindness and love to everyone. And I unfortunately, I kind of agree, because we will always have some differences, and some people won't like you, some people want to educate themselves. I personally chose to educate myself about many different issues, civil issues, and what is going on in general. For me, it's very interesting, because I want to be part of not a struggle, but part of a change. And I don't think that we should be judgmental about people who react, because I have a lot of friends which are Caucasian, and they really, I know that they support the Black community, but they don't really know how to react. And that's why probably they're more silent. Just there is no, how you mentioned in the beginning, we're not prepared about it. Sometimes in our businesses as business owners, I don't think that we should be losing our authenticity. We have to be authentic, everything we do, because I cannot be talking about high profile events. I can't be talking about Fabergé. I can be polished and sophisticated when we have underlying conditions as a society, as a community, as a world, right? So we just have to address certain issues. And in a way, I feel very that I was born in this age of time. 2020 is going to go down in the history books, because so many changes are happening. But I strongly believe that we have to be authentic.
Absolutely.
Yes, even if we lose clients, so what? I mean, it is what it is.
Absolutely. Alicia, you wanted to say something.
That's so true. No, I was Marianne. I was about what Marianne was talking about with her children being biracial, because the situation for them is they're not white enough to be white, they're not light enough, and they're not Black enough to be Black. Even though they're categorized as Black. Do you find, because my children are mixed, and but not, I mean, they're all kind of mixed, because we're from Trinidad, so they're all kind of mixed up. So do you find that it is hard for them to sort of fit in to any kind of category in society, because again, they're this biracial mix of you and your ex-husband?
That's an interesting question, actually.
Well, yes, you see, I never had to like that, because I'm a Caucasian woman. I never had issues about anything to do with race. I just saw how other people were treated, and I felt that I'm confident enough. I can handle it. I can have friends from any kind of race, and I know how to fit in. But for my children, I have to tell you a personal experience, and this was years ago. I received a call on my cell phone. And it was about my daughter. Some girls from us were actually attacking her. She was only about 9 years old or 8 years old. I was so shocked, because this was the first encounter that actually was towards my kid. So and because they're so little, they're only 9 or 10 years old, they called my number. So I called the number ID, and I called back because I was so shocked. I still didn't want to expose police, because kids, if they get blacklisted, they still call it blacklist or whatever. They will be profiled. So I had to speak with parents. I took my daughter. There were so many people. It was just an issue, and this was my first very serious encounter in America. But in my country, since my daughter was born, everybody was talking about it. So I knew that is, is an issue.
It was different.
It is different, and different, for some people different is not okay, which is the problem. Different should be okay. Different, we are all different. Even two whites are not alike, two blacks are not alike, two Indians or two Bulgarians, Brazilians. Anyway, nobody's alike. We're all fingerprints. We're all different. Vismaya, I have a totally different question for you. So, I have seen my white friends sometimes complimenting me, and I've seen this compliment quite a bit, not just to me, to other people. Oh, you're not like other Indians. Your English is so much better. Your skin is so much nicer, or you don't smell like other Indians. I think they try to compliment, and they try to tell me that I am cuter or better or all that. I tried initially to take it as like something I should blush about or something I should be like, oh, I'm better than others, but I don't feel it that way. And and Marianne, I want to bring your example because I've also had just very recently a friend of mine I was talking like, if the same thing an Indian or an Asian says wrong, it's like go back to your country and learn English. But if the same person of a white, light skin, but a different culture, different accent says, oh, how cute. A Spanish saying a word, a Bulgarian saying a word, oh, how cute. And now, you're in a community. But here's another thing I want to talk about. And this is something I've personally seen from Indians, from Black people, from other people of color. The reverse racism. Just because you're white, you're just not good enough to fit into my community. You're not good enough to understand things we do. What do you think about that as a teacher? When you were a teacher and you dealt with all different cultures, all different races, have you experienced that, and how do you feel about that compliment?
It's not a compliment. I think it's a backwards compliment. Number one, it's a hard question for me to answer. When I was known for, if I saw an Indian child in my school or a Pakistani child, for chasing them down because I wanted to try the cultural dishes of their family. So I wasn't, that's not who I am. So I understand what you're saying. Like as a Jew, I've had people say, well, you don't look Jewish. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
You're Jewish. You're supposed to be mega wealthy. You're supposed to, why don't you have a big nose? Or,
Right.
I've had that experience. I don't think that's a compliment. I'm not one, I don't find racial jokes funny. I don't find those, like, I don't find humor in that. And I've been in front of people who are making those kind of jokes, and I'm like, look, that's not funny to me. Don't do it in my presence. And again, it's not that I'm perfect and I never make mistakes, because I do, but I don't find that funny. So I don't find that was a compliment. I think they were trying to make it a compliment, but what does that mean really?
To me, it also comes from a place where I understand they don't understand me enough. I understand they don't know what to say. But it's also like, are they trying to appropriate and try to say something nice to me, but they don't know how to? Why not? Why not make it about my race and just make it about, maybe I have good English, maybe I have great grammar, maybe I am good at cooking. Why does it have to be Indian cooking or Indian English or Chinese English or Chinese meal? Why does it have to be a comparison within? Now, here's a question I will ask, and Alicia, this is to you, because I know you will see, from a unique point of view. Recently, somebody made a comment to me. Have you seen how much violence does the Black community has within, and why are you attacking or questioning white people when they're the ones killing each other the most? So who's going to stop that? And I just didn't understand. I mean, to me, it was like, why are you even trying to compare that? To me, number one, that's two different issues. Number two, you're trying to again racialize a totally different situation or totally different. This is about gender inequality. This is about, I don't know, lack of education, lack of, I don't know how everybody's raised. Everybody has a different circumstance. So, Alicia, how do you feel about that comment when people say highest number of, or even what I find personally offensive is, have you seen how many blacks are criminals? I just don't understand that comment.
Well, it's coming from the perspective of the media. What is the media showing? What is the media portraying? What are people actually seeing? Because there is crime everywhere. White people commit crime. They commit murder. They do bad things. Every culture, every race, everyone. I mean, every community has its sort of gang violence, and it's just somehow makes the news more sensationalized in the Black. Like I said, everything is disproportionate. So my children showed me a video of how the media even speaks about certain riots. Like if it's after a game and there are white people rioting and burning cars, and they're like, oh, look at how, they're just overzealous and they're just celebrating and they're, but if it was Black people, they're thugs and they're vandals and so it's just also the language that's used by the media to portray. So it's even more, I see you, Vismaya, I'm going to let you go, but it's even more sensationalized when it is of color and Hispanic, it's not, and I'm not here just talking about Black, I'm talking about Hispanics too. They are marginalized and it's the same. It's like here in America,
I see it in a way, if you're different, you're marginalized. If you're not,
and
marginalized, right?
But it's the way it's portrayed, and it is shown more and it's sensationalized more when it's in the Black or Hispanic community or minority community.
Words, picking and choosing of the communities, the news, the word. And you know what? I understand some people questioning like why these riots and everything is happening, but I also understand it's also you're buying a lot into what media is serving you by choice, and you're not exploring enough to know enough. You're not questioning enough that what is really being served. And Vismaya, I know you have a comment. I just want to actually direct something at you, Vismaya. When this is happening and this discrimination is happening, and then we talk about within the community and all that, but isn't that what women face all day, all night in general, whether it's employment, whether it's at home, whether it's family, whether it's even with your own sibling, the brother and the sister? Don't we still all face that in 2020, no matter which culture you're in or from?
As a woman, I don't know if I can honestly say that I have experienced that. The women that raised me were pretty badass and were on the front lines with their picket signs and fighting for equal rights and fighting for women's rights and, marching the streets when they didn't agree with something. So I don't have that experience. Being maybe seen as an object, more like a sexual object versus as a intelligent human, maybe I've experienced that a little bit more. But I don't know if I've ever had that experience as a woman of like, you can't have this job. I worked in the same school for 20 years and I really had freedom to do what I wanted in my classroom. I had guidelines, but I pretty much had my freedom to do what I wanted. And I'm very grateful for that. And I didn't realize that you could see me, so I didn't mean to keep pushing at you.
No.
I think that the big issue here is, yes, we see we hear about a lot of Black crime in the Black community and Black crime, and there are more Black people in jails. And I think that we have to start looking, and this is the big cry right now, is there is a systemic racism has been going on. Why is it that we have more Black people in the jails? And some of the crimes are not big crimes. They're misdemeanors, or they don't have the same.
They get harsher sentences.
Right. They don't have the harder sentence. They don't have the same access to legal. They don't have the same access to things that maybe more affluent people have. And I think that is a huge part of the problem that needs to be changed. And if we don't say, yes, you're right, there are more Black people in jail. But now, you know what? Let's take a look at why.
And how many of them are wrongly accused.
Exactly.
I've seen so many cases, and I'm talking about America, I'm
Exactly.
talking about Australia, I'm talking about other cultures where just recently, and I'm talking about a country I don't want to name, but I'll just say you guys all know where I am from. Somebody, because of being black, jailed while the case is going on, 20 years after well, the maximum term for the crime accused is 15 years. After 20 years, he was exonerated and he was let go, and he was in jail all this time. And all he was served with is like, oops, we are sorry. His
Yeah.
entire life gone. He turned from a young man into a senior citizen. He was 35 something. He's nearly senior citizen. His life is gone. He was a scholar at his time. He was a professor, and it's all gone. Why? And this is what I want to come to. I'm talking about a country which claims, or origin from where I come from, where people say, oh, we are racist towards me. I have seen within my own country the discrimination towards the lighter people. The reason I'm not saying, most of you know this, I'm not safe in my own country, so I don't go to my country. I don't mention my country. And in my own country, because I'm lighter than my fellow men, I get treated differently. Because I have this accent, I get treated differently. Whereas people who are darker get treated differently. The girl is told from a very young age, "Oh, you're too dark. You're not gonna find a man. We're gonna have to give extra gift for your family." I don't want to use the word. So I just don't understand that. That even within the same race, how can you have that prejudice? And you do. Uh,
Oh,
and
it
I want to
exists. It exists in the Black community. It exists everywhere.
That's what I was coming to. That
The-
I find people complimenting each other, like, "Oh, your skin is so much lighter. Your hair is so much better." How do we do that? I don't understand. Marianne, what I want to ask you is, now you teach business etiquette or etiquette in general. You teach professional how to behave, how to be a better person when it comes to conversations and relationships. Uh, and this comes does this in your business, in your line of work, do you find that there's different challenges because of people of a certain lighter skin or whatever take it entirely differently? They want you to teach other people to behave in a different way, and them, do you understand what I mean, like trying to actually tell you how to run your business based on the client color of your client?
No, I never experienced this so far, but I think in terms of communication and how to present yourself, you see, I strongly believe in the because usually they send in every single country, the first respondent is the diplomacy, the people who are the diplomats in a particular embassy, right? So the efforts there fail, they send the army. So when we point of view, actually we losing out, and is a different effect. But
I think Marianne,
certain serious situations, I
trouble with
think
your
that the issue is much dated out. Sometimes you cannot be silent. Sometimes you cannot be paying attention about. Mhm.
we're having some trouble with
I'm
your
sorry,
sound.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're having some trouble with your sound. Do you want to quickly refresh and come back, and I'll just
I
carry on.
cannot.
We'll pick it up right from where you're leaving. So if you just quickly refresh
Oh,
yourself,
yeah, of course.
right? So
Yes. Mhm.
ladies, question to you. Again, the question comes is this question is being asked again and again. Look at the writers. Look at the violence they're doing. Look at they're stealing from the expensive luxury brands, Chanel and all that. And we're looking at that. But here's the thing that I noticed, and I also observed: a lot of these people being video filmed, being caught on camera, are actually white skinned. So, what's your perception on that, please, anyone?
No, I mean, they start because some of it is organized. Some of the video that has been shown is organized looting, where they have walkie-talkies and they have trucks that are pulling up and busting glasses and going in and taking tons of merchandise and dumping it in trucks and rolling out before the cops get there. And so it's the organized ones are to make the community look bad, because then by the time the cops get there, or the news cameras, of course, opportunists from the neighborhood will take advantage of that. So they catch the opportunists that are going in there to take the little things. So now they're like, look at the Black people in the community taking stuff. But some of this is not being instigated by them. They're just taking opportunity of a busted open window and merchandise on the floor that they can take. Some of it is, I'm not saying all of it is, but some of it is from the anger that they're doing this out of anger. But we have to look at, who is instigating a lot of this. A lot of it on video was white teens, young white men that were starting the looting. So take it for whatever you believe.
Yeah. Vismaya, what do you think about that?
So it frustrates me beyond belief to see, the white people going into. I understand. Let me say it this way. I understand when Black people are rioting. I get it, because and I don't condone violence. I don't support violence. I'm not promoting violence. But I get it. When you're so upset with a system and you wake up every single day and feel like it does not matter. And a friend of mine said it this way. She goes, Vismaya, I wake up every single day and I'm already being judged. I'm already a threat because of the color of my skin. So if you wake up every single day and you're a good human being, and or even maybe you're not a great human being, but you're living in a system that constantly points the finger at you because of the color of your skin, and you have the same rights, but you don't have the same advantages, and your neighborhoods are not being pumped in with the same amount of money, the same amount of healthcare, the same amount of proper grocery stores. I understand being that pissed where you would want to go in and cause a ruckus, because you're at the point where you just are like, I don't care anymore. And I understand it intellectually. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. On the other side, if there's a white person who's going in, and if it's been, that's horrific, and that should not be happening, and I don't condone violence. I don't think that that's the answer, but I get it on some levels, and I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible. But there is no reason that, a white person should be going in and causing riots and being rebel rousers and doing things. There's already enough fuel in this fire right now. There's already enough.
Well, they want to fuel the fire. That's what they're doing. They found in California, especially, there was 70% of the people that were arrested weren't even from that neighborhood. They came in there to create that disruption, to cause that in that neighborhood. They weren't from there.
When I hear that, though, the question I ask, is it like being from Miami and Coral Springs, or Miami and Hollywood? Like, those are very close communities. So not from, if you're not from, like, that's what
they just said that they're not from there, that they came in.
And I've heard that as well, but I'm like trying to understand, is it 5 minutes?
Am I coming all the way to Kendall from Miami Gardens?
Right. Or did I drive 6 hours to go cause a problem? Like,
right. Another angle that, Alicia brought in, and I want to sort of look into that as well, that it is true, as human beings, some of us are just opportunists. Some of us just see, oh, there's a window for me to get advantage, and I take that. And you will find people of all color, all races, all everything will actually be doing that. Similarly, anger, frustration, just because you want to prove a point, you want to make a point. Some of these people might actually not be doing it because they want to rob. They just want to destroy because they feel destroyed.
But also you have to look at too that we're in the midst of a pandemic. People in depressed neighborhoods haven't been working. They don't have anything, and they're taking that opportunity. They're seeing stuff they could probably sell or use because they don't have anything right now. So I'm not saying opportunists is necessarily a bad, like, all right.
But that's what I mean. We don't know what their story is, and
I don't know what their story is. I don't know why they would go in and take it.
We just know somebody else started it. Now somebody else saw an opportunity of whatever, either to solve their problem, or because they wanted to steal, or because they're angry, whatever it is that is happening. I want to just take a couple of comments from Alicia. She's saying, my own family takes issue with my children being mixed Korean. They also took issue with my ex-husband being Jewish and my father being Italian. Different is not okay in my mother's family. And see, that's what it is. It is happening within our own families as well. And Alicia says, my heart breaks for the loss of resources and community. My clients need those resources. Baltimore is still recovering from the riots. And my heart breaks for the loss of resources. I think it's just the same one. So that's it. Everybody has their own perspective. And I think the thing is, violence of any kind is just not okay and just not the answer. Violence is not going to resolve anything. Violence is not going to, make anything. Speaking of which, I know we're going over 1 hour, but I just want to ask each of you, how do we change this? As Vismaya, you reminded us that, Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Hopefully I'm saying the words right. But how do we begin as individuals? What, Vismaya?
So Alicia, first of all, who's leading the comments, reach out to me, because I have a lot of people in Baltimore. So you might make good connections. And I think for me,
I'll connect the two of you on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. For me, it starts with looking at my own biases and really being clear and asking myself and catching myself when I make certain comments or have certain thoughts. I think that's for me the beginning, and to start listening and reading and educating myself. But that's the one thing that I have started to do. The other thing I've started to do was, like I've told you, campaign for the person that I think needs to be in office, and start to do my part and not just be lip service, but actually take action.
Right. Oops, sorry, I just muted myself. That's no fun. So Marianne, I just wanted to ask you, what can we do to bring about that change? Where can we begin in your view?
Well, you see, as a society and in general in the world, we have so many issues. And I think that if we can tackle one issue at a time, this could be great. But we have to do something. We can't be silent. If you have an issue with maybe whatever it is, you just have to make a stand, because we cannot pretend that it's business as usual, because it's not. We have to realize that if we don't do something or just anything, the things are going to be the same, and the protests, riots, and people will be offended, hurt, mistreated all the time, being females, white, black, whatever the case is. Nothing will change if we don't start with us, and just little by little, or just in general. So silence is not going to be the answer. That's my opinion.
I keep muting myself and forgetting. Thank you for that, Marianne. And Alicia, what do you think about, where does the change begin, really?
I love what Vismaya said about recognizing your own biases. I said it has to start with love and respect, and starting to understand one another instead of judging one another, or I guess judging in the sense that prejudging. Let me say prejudging one another just because of the color of your skin, the texture of your hair. I dealt with that as a child. Or the way you speak, or, stop prejudging someone and get to know them. I have made the most amazing relationships with people by not prejudging based on anything else but how you speak to me, how we interact with one another. Let me get to know your story. Let me get to know who you are. And you would be surprised at how much in common you have with someone, and even your differences don't become as a barrier, so much more as something to understand and appreciate about someone else, instead of it being a barrier to fight against. So I think it has to start with love, respect, and understanding, individually and then corporately. So take that individual responsibility and then let that spread corporately to everyone else. And And all of you made great points about other ways that we can change. But I think it has to start with personal responsibility for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. We could go on, and this conversation is, it's too short for what we need to still keep going on in this world to change and everything. I do appreciate your time. I hope we, touch the surface and handle a conversation that's really not easy to understand. And we'll have these conversations again and again, as many times as we need. I do appreciate your time, and please don't go anywhere. I will be seeing you in the green room in a second. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, well, that was Almost Naked Conversation with me, Szebastian Onne, on Dreamaniac TV. And, we talked about change begins with me. I know we handled that at the very end, but that's, my focus was to really try and understand different perspectives on what really is going on, how are we dealing this, how it's affecting people of, different, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're white from a different culture, whether you are me, who's always just never understood where do I belong. I have so many different categories to deal with, but yeah, technically Indian. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please let me know if you have any feedback on the topic we discussed. If you want to come on and actually discuss more with us, please join us. Please just contact us at studio@dreamaniac.com, and we'll get you on. Thank you so much. And as we say on Dreamaniac TV, you dream big and we make it happen. And until then, take care.